The next announcement is that I will be taking part in a panel discussion on the occult coming up in New York City this month on June 27th. So this is going to be taking place at the Meta Center in New York City in Manhattan. It's called The Keys to the Occult and the Evolution of Consciousness. Also taking part in this great discussion panel will be Pam Grossman, Curtis Davis, and Gary Jansen. And the panel will be hosted by Alan Steinfeld. So 2 speakers from the Free Your Mind conference, well, 3 if you include myself, 3 speakers from the Free Your Mind 2 conference taking part in this great panel discussion on occultism. The topics that they're going to discuss is what is the difference between the occult and spirituality? Do the occult sciences still have value today? Is there a reason for their secrecy? Why is this knowledge now emerging, and how can we use it? And is occult knowledge there to activate a higher potential in ourselves? These are the general topics of discussion that are going to be taking place at this panel. So this will be happening at the Meta Center in New York City on Thursday, June 27th from 7 p.m. to 9:45 p.m. For more information or to get tickets, you can go to Metacenter NY, METACENTERNY.com, MetaCenterNY.com. So really looking forward to that event, and I want to thank both Curtis Davis and Alan Steinfeld for their work in setting that up and inviting me to be a part of that. With that having been said, the last, I guess you could call it an event announcement. It's an event recounting. I'm sure most people have already heard the news that after the End the Fed rally that took place on May 18th here in Philadelphia, me and my wife, my partner Barb, were unlawfully and illegally arrested and detained outside of Independence Mall and the Liberty Bell for doing absolutely nothing except exercising our natural rights to freedom of speech and freedom of the press. This is what America has turned into, ladies and gentlemen. Criminal thugs usurping people's natural rights to speak freely in the cradle of freedom, Philadelphia Independence Mall, where the Declaration of Independence was signed. This has been a news item on my website. Over 50,000 people have seen the video, the aftermath of what happened, and us being, handcuffed. I still have damage in my hand that I have not been able to see a doctor yet because I don't have the funds to do so at this point. These criminals will be being sued and taken into their own court system on criminal charges. Going to be starting that process very shortly. But what I want to do before I get into the presentation for this podcast is just read the account that I wrote on my website. This is in the news section. You could also click into it from the latest news feed on the left-hand side of the whatonearthishappening.com website. I called this article that I wrote a little summary about the event, Free Speech Rights Are Being Shut Down in Philadelphia and Throughout All of America. So here is this recounting. I'm simply going to read this because, quite frankly, I'm almost tired of telling this story because I've been on many different radio shows talking about it. I'm sure other people who interview me are going to want to have a recounting on their show so they can get the word out to concerned Americans that this country is already a police state. Forget being turned into one. It is a police state now as we speak. And measures need to be taken to undo that by the citizens of this country. They need to grow the courage and the will to actually stop this police state. So I'll just read the account, and I'm also going to post this in PDF form on with the podcast as well, and you can download that and distribute it if you see fit to do so. So here we go. On Saturday, May 18th at 3 o'clock p.m., I was walking with my wife Barb in Philadelphia from Market Street to Chestnut Street between 5th and 6th Streets, and handed out a few flyers about how the Federal Reserve Bank is devaluing our nation's currency to people standing in line at the Liberty Bell location, something that I have done almost 20 times in the past. I briefly spoke to a couple of them who asked me for more information. We then proceeded to continue to walk to Chestnut Street, where we were stopped by two parked police officers who said that I could not hand out flyers without a permit. I had already finished handing them out, actually. I had a few left in my hand and was in the process of leaving the area. They began citing some obscure federal regulation that I had never heard of. I calmly told them that I was peacefully exercising the rights of free speech and free press as I was walking through the area, which are natural rights which cannot be granted by man nor alienated from man, and which they do not have the quote-unquote right, regardless of what the terms of their job may tell them, to usurp from me or to stop me from exercising. That is not one of their rights, regardless of what they think. And I'm adding on to this here. I'm stopping the recounting because they kept telling us, we're just doing our job. And I kept saying, no, you're not just doing your job. You are taking away free people's rights. You are usurping natural rights is what you're doing. You are taking other people's rights, which you don't have the right to do. And I was asserting that very clearly, which is what should be done when somebody comes over to you and tells you that you can't exercise a natural right. If you're not harming anybody, if you're not defrauding anybody, if you're not stealing anybody's property, then no one has the right to accost you and tell you to stop what you're doing. I was exercising that which is a right, a moral, natural right, peacefully engaging people with speech and information, which is every human being on this planet's right, everyone. And no other human being has the right to tell any other human being that they may not exercise that right. I don't care what anybody thinks. I don't care what anybody tells you. That's true eternally. I don't care what quote-unquote regulation says otherwise. It's invalid because it's immoral. It's not in harmony with the laws of nature and common sense, which is what these people don't have. No conscience. No common sense. They're order followers who will do anything to follow an order as long as they receive a paycheck to do so and some petty sense of thug power. Because that's all these people are, thugs and criminals. Continuing with the recounting. I informed them that the unalienable rights to free speech and free press were also guaranteed and protected by the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America, which, as supposedly anyway, the highest legal document of American law, certainly trumps and negates any unconstitutional federal regulation which they were quoting to me, even under their own legal system. And to stop again for another moment, this doesn't mean I'm a constitutionalist. I don't believe in the authority of man, period. As such, I'm an anarchist. And that's the word I'm going to start using for it. Instead of anarchist, I'm an anarchist. I don't believe in master-slave relationships. I'm not a slave. I'm not your subject. Regardless of what you think, I stand against the idea of there being archons, people who tell other people what to do, even if they're not hurting anybody else. That's called telling somebody else you're their master, and they have to obey your commands. Well, you're not the archon of anything. And people need to understand we need to do away with people who think that they're archons. This needs to be gone from the earth. It needs to be gone. This whole idea that anybody is an authority needs to be gone from the earth. We need to expunge this idea from people's minds that still believe in this crap. It's unbelievable. The year is 2013 and people still believe that there's kings and subjects, that there's masters and slaves. And most people support this crap because they're house slaves. You know what most people in this country are? They're the Samuel L. Jackson character from Django Unchained. Go watch the movie. And that's what the people of America have turned into. And you can't even insult them by telling them that because they're too dumb to even understand the reference. They're too dumb to even understand Civil War period slavery. They think of that as the only form of slavery too. And then they'll get offended when you tell them that ball and chain and shackled slavery is not the only form of slavery that exists, has existed in the world, and exists now. It's not the only thing that is slavery. Slavery is more than that. Slavery is the notion that somebody's an authority and can tell you what you can and cannot do if you're not hurting anybody else. That's slavery. Slavery is taxation, theft against your will of the product of your labor. In ball and chain slavery, it just happens to be 100% and at the point of a gun. And it's still at the point of a gun if you don't do it today. Prohibition is slavery, telling somebody what they can and can't put into their body because it's a form, it's a claim of ownership against your body, and people can't see that because their head's too wrapped up in crap and illusions. Continuing with the recounting again. So, I informed them that they were violating natural human rights by even attempting to stop people from exercising these rights and claiming that our free speech rights can be invalidated by an obscure federal regulation, and by making the claim that I now needed to pay the federal government for permission. They were telling me I need to pay the federal government permission to exercise a natural human right of speech. And people who say, Mark, you're getting angry about this? Yeah, you're damn right I'm angry about it. And something is broken inside of you if you're not angry about this happening. Something's been robbed from you. A natural human instinct for self-preservation has been robbed from you. And the preservation of your natural rights that are a birthright from the creator of the universe. If you're not angry when those things are attempted to be taken from you, your rights and your freedom, and you're not angry, you are broken. That means something's irreparably wrong with you, perhaps irreparably. And broken means you've been turned into a slave. That's what broken means. You're no longer even offering any resistance to your own slavery. Like when you break a horse, you break a wild horse to allow you to ride on it without any resistance, and the horse will go wherever you want to go if you steer him in that direction. That's called breaking. And when the mind is broken to a certain point, people become just like that horse. A willing beast of burden. Continuing. After informing them that they were violating these rights, I simply attempted to walk away toward 5th Street on Chestnut Street. When these park police told me that I was not free to walk away from them. And I asked them at that point, what have I done? Have I violated anyone else's rights? Have I done any harm to another person? Have I defrauded someone? Have I violated anybody's property? Have I stolen anything from anyone? And they repeatedly said, no, you haven't done any of those things. I said, well, then you have no right to tell me that I'm not free to walk away. I've done nothing wrong. And you're telling me you're going to take my freedom of movement away? And they said, yes, you're not free to walk away from us. So they told me I was not free to walk away from them, even though I had long since finished handing anyone any flyers and had done absolutely nothing to harm or violate anyone else's rights. They appeared to be viciously angered at my declaration that I had engaged in a peaceful activity that was a natural right, and that they had no right to attempt to stop me from exercising it. They were just viciously angered that I wasn't totally kowtowing and bowing down and saying, yo, you're the authority and I have to do what you say. You're not the authority and I don't have to do what you say. If I'm not hurting anybody else, you have no right to stop me from doing what I'm doing, or especially to continue on my way in my freedom of movement. And this is America, ladies and gentlemen. This is America now, in front of Independence Hall. And once again, if you're not viciously angered by this enough to start taking action and speaking out against these abuses of human rights, something is wrong with you. And I'll be the person to tell you that. You are broken. There is something broken inside of your soul if you're not angry at this. And you need to get your head right if that's where you're at. Anybody that thinks that anybody can pass a law, this is a crime of every person at the federal level who voted for this. The nerve of somebody saying, we're going to vote in a law that says you have to pay permission to speak and hand out literature to someone else. And I'll tell you what the flyer said in a moment after I'm finished this account. So I'll continue. They appeared to be viciously angered at my declaration that I had engaged in a peaceful activity that was a natural right and that they had no right to attempt to stop me from exercising it. Along with many other park police who had gathered while I was speaking to the original two officers, they followed me and Barb onto Chestnut Street and violently stopped us from proceeding on our way. Put handcuffs on both of us and deliberately put mine on so tight, mine were applied so tightly that I have now lost feeling in a large portion of the top of my left hand and knuckles on my left hand. It feels like I've been given Novocaine and the part of my left hand has been numbed and the feeling has still not returned. This is a subtle form of torture that they do to people who don't obey them, like little broken animals, which I am not. No, you're not my master. You're not my owner. And you're going to get that through your head. We're going to put it through your head that you're not our owners. That's going to be put through your head. Whether you want it there or not, you're going to find out that you're not our owners. You're just a bunch of little boys, frightened little boys, with some kind of nested trauma that you can't work through for some reason about what your mommy or daddy did to you when you were young. And that's no excuse to violate other people's rights. Honestly, it's none of my business what happened to you when you were young or when you were a teenager that traumatized you and put you in thug victim mentality mindset psychologically. That's up to you and the people around you to help you work through that situation. And if you listen to these podcasts, maybe you'll understand a little bit more about that and start working through that trauma instead of trying to express it and take it out on other people in a way that is violent, that you have no right to do, that's morally wrong, and you know it. Because nobody is so stupid that you think that you have the right to shut down free speech. First of all, you're shutting down your own free speech. You're shutting down the free speech of your family. You're shutting down the free speech of your children. You're a moron who's putting your own self into a cage, into a prison. And you're trying to say that's not what's happening. Because you're broken. There's something wrong with you. And you need to get help. Because you're mentally unfit to even be walking around in society, let alone doing some job that carries some responsibility with it. You're a broken boy. And for people who think I'm venting, I'll tell this to their face. I'm not just venting because I'm on the air. Bring some of these people in front of me. You think I won't go back there and start handing out flyers again? You think I'm not going to continue to exercise free speech? You're wrong. And we'll organize a whole event of just flyering for any cause you want in front of the Liberty Bell. Because that's our right to do so. And you're not going to stop us from exercising it. We're going to stop you. Get that through your head. Continuing with the account. They put the cuffs on so tightly that they've caused nerve damage in my wrist and stolen something from me which they have no right to steal. Feeling in a part of my body's been stolen from me. These people think they're God. They think they can do whatever they want and get away with it. And if Americans don't show them that they're wrong, they're going to continue with this course of action. I'm telling you now, the time now is to rise up, ladies and gentlemen. The time is to now rise up. Because when they're putting down free speech, gulags are right around the corner. That's what's next. If you study any historical accounts of how an open society gets turned into a closed society, that's what's on the way next. And people are sitting there with their thumb up their ass, doing nothing, attacking other people, complaining about this and that doesn't matter. When your rights are being shut down before your eyes and you're still not speaking to other people. You're still just listening to somebody. You need to be speaking to as many other people as possible. Get out of your fear and speak. So mine were applied so tight that I've lost feeling in a large portion of the top of my left hand and will need eventually to see a doctor about possible permanent nerve damage. They unlawfully arrested our freedom of movement for over 20 minutes, keeping us there detained, in which I launched into a tirade about what was going on in America. And you can watch that in the video that is on the news section of the site. I'll post the video with this. They unlawfully searched my person when I told them I didn't consent to any searches, violating my natural rights, my constitutionally protected under the Fourth Amendment, rights that are constitutionally protected under the Fourth Amendment against illegal searches and seizures, because that was an unlawful illegal search and seizure. They stole my property in the form of the remaining flyers which I had paid to print, took them, claiming that they were evidence of what? No crime had been committed. There's no evidence there to collect. And then adding insult to injury, they also stole a $20 bill from my wallet, which I discovered was missing when they returned it to me after releasing us. I mean, this is what we're dealing with. Common thug thieves. Common thug thieves in a costume, in a uniform with a badge, thinking that they're an authority and all you are is a thug thief. And people have any respect left for people in a uniform with a badge. And they think this is just a few. No, this is, you know what it is? It's total bullshit. That you people think this is just a few bad apples who give the other people bad names. Bullshit. This is the common everyday thing that takes place in America. This is the rule, not the exception. It's the rule. And the people who think this is an exception need to get their heads screwed on straight and understand this is the rule. This is a systemic infection that needs to be routed out and weeded out. It's a systemic infection. This is standard operating procedure and standard policy. Because these people think they're God who can get away with any crime. Because people think they're the authorities. That's where we're at in America. You got a criminal thug class that is there to protect the ruling class, thinking that they're gods and that they have authority over other people and can do any crimes that they want, including up to killing people, and get away with it. And the American citizenry is going to sit there on their ass and not show them that they're wrong. Well, I got news for them. They think that's what's going to happen, but trust me, you little boys, you little traumatized boys are in for a rude awakening in this country because you are totally out of touch with the sentiment that exists in this nation right now. You are out of touch because you're not paying attention. Your brain's scattered. You're totally scatterbrained, you're not paying attention, and you don't understand where the sentiment is at. Because I'm telling you, where the sentiment is at is very dangerous for you. And you should be scared. You should be scared. Because I'm telling you, I'm the person who's been trying to prevent what's coming in America. Trying to prevent what is coming. I don't want to see a hot armed revolution in this country, but that's what you are going to be creating. You are going to be the causal factor of doing that, not people like me. I'm trying to make the transition out of this peaceful. You're the one who's trying to prevent that peaceful transition by holding on to a dead corpse called government and authority. It's a dead corpse that you're trying to hold on to desperately because people everywhere are realizing it's a bullshit scam. And they're waking up to how they've been scammed, and you're afraid that people are going to somehow just take violence out on you. When that's not what we're trying to do at all. We're trying to avert that. All the work I've been trying to do is trying to avert the violence. You're the one who's carrying out violence and then ensuring that a hot revolution is going to be coming. You're ensuring that by your very actions. Because I'm telling you, go out to, things like gun shows and talk to people, and the sentiment is very, very bad in America. People think I'm angry. You haven't seen angry. You don't know what is out there that people are ready to throw down at the drop of a hat, let alone something as extraordinarily important as the violation of speech rights. And I'm telling you, this is what the police are bringing on. They're the ones that are going to be bringing that on, not me. I'm trying to avert that with everything that is inside of me. To explain to people the difference between right and wrong. To help them to understand morality. Which is what the key to this whole thing is. Hence the natural law seminar that I'm conducting. About morality. The laws of morality. And these people are continuously breaking and violating those laws flagrantly, thinking that they're going to get away with it forever. And let me tell you something. America may have a very, very long fuse, but at some point, it's going to go. And look out when it does, because this country isn't some punk country out in Asia or Europe someplace that's allowed themselves to be declawed and defanged and devenomized. We're not those people. We're not those people. And you're going to find out how much America's not those people if you keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be horrific. And I'm trying to avert that. I'm trying to give you very simple, common sense advice that you are absolutely setting off a bomb in your own living room. That's what you're doing. You are setting off a bomb in your own presence. Right in front of you, you're putting a bomb down and you're lighting it off. That's metaphorically what you're doing to yourself. Because you don't understand the powder keg that is this country right now, especially after all the crap with the proposed gun legislation. That woke up so many millions of Americans. I'm telling people, you better start talking more to people who are in the police and break through them somehow. Talk to family members who you know that they're family members of police. Because this is what the occultists want. The occultists want big bloodshed. They want human sacrifice. And they're going to get it, because they're going to push people into a corner. They're going to back them up against the wall, and then they're going to come forward, and the bloodshed is going to begin. And I'm trying to avert that. Once again, I can't say that enough. My goal is to not have to be a hot second American Revolution. Because I don't want to see all the deaths that are going to result in something like that. I want people to understand the difference between right and wrong. And when you say this to people, they get offended. People think that they understand it now. And you don't. Most people do not understand it now. I want to get into that in a minute, but let me continue finishing this account. They attempted to give me a citation for exercising free speech without a permit, which I refused to take from them. I told them repeatedly, I do not understand. I'm not taking that from you. I don't care what you say or do. I'm not accepting that. The end. I said, you can't force me to take something against my will. I'm not taking it. I said, do whatever you want, but I'm not taking that from your hand. I do not understand anything you are saying regarding that I violated anybody's rights or done something that was, quote, illegal, because I did not. And that's what you have to tell them. I do not understand. I'm not standing under your authority on this issue because I did nothing wrong. I'm standing in righteousness within my rights. I said, I refuse to take it from them because I will not admit that I did anything morally wrong, or I will not have my time wasted to, quote unquote, defend myself as my actions harm no other being. And I was doing my duty beyond a right. A duty goes beyond a right, ladies and gentlemen. I was doing a duty to warn people about the devaluation of their earnings and savings, and in doing so exercising a natural right, which is quote-unquote allegedly constitutionally protected in America. Allegedly. Because quote-unquote lawmakers here think that they could just invalidate a natural right with a little federal regulation. And the sad part about it is assholes in this country actually believe that claim. That you can write down, we're going to restrict your free speech rights and you need to now pay the federal government permission to exercise a natural right. And there are assholes in this country that would actually accept that as a valid claim and go and get a permit to speak. Next they'll say, you'll need a permit to breathe the air, to walk, or to eat. And people will accept it. Oh, well, the government said so, so it must be true. These people are a bunch of clowns, is what they are. A bunch of clowns who don't understand what a right is. They told me that a warrant would be issued for my arrest if I did not take the citation from them, and I still refused to take it. Now, since this happened, we got letters from the Department of the Interior, which control the Park Service, saying that all these quote-unquote citations for these quote-unquote violations have been voided. And they don't consider this an issue, that we will not have to pay any fines, we will not have to appear in court. They consider the issue closed. Well, I don't consider it closed. And these people are going to be taken in on criminal charges. Criminal charges will be filed for assault, for theft, for conspiracy, because they were all in on this illegal activity together. Okay? Criminal conspiracy, criminal negligence, a violation of First Amendment protected natural rights, violation of Fourth Amendment protected natural rights. I'm telling you, they're going to be fighting so many charges and have to hire a lawyer to fight so many criminal charges that they're going to be poor by the time this is over. Because that's the only way you really hurt any of these people. They can't comprehend the difference between right and wrong. That's meaningless, trying to reach them at a soul level, because they don't have one. Because these are destroyed souls. They are destroyed people who are order followers of the state. Just like good little Nazis, just like good little German secret police, just like good little Russian secret police, just like good little Soviet police that were taking people off to gulags because they were commanded to do so. Anybody who was a political adversary. Just like the SS. They're just like the SA, really. The Sturmabteilung. And you look back in history at what happened to them. When they were done being used by the Nazis, they got shanked. Okay? In the night of the long knives. That's what they think of their controllers. Because they're building a super class of controllers. So now we take these people down here. Thanks for doing our bidding for the time. And now we're done with you. So into the meat grinder you go. And this is even evidence of it at a smaller scale. They know we did nothing wrong. They don't want me going into their court system and waking more people up about what's going on in America. So they're throwing their employees under the bus. That's how much they even stand up for what they're doing. They basically just admitted we've done nothing wrong and given it to us in legal writing. So that's awesome, because now the people who did these crimes have been totally thrown under the bus. The last paragraph here is, free speech is being shut down in America. America is actively, right before our eyes, being turned into a police state such as Hitler's Nazi Germany or Stalin's Soviet Russia. And if you do not agree with that statement after reading the above, you either think that, quote-unquote, keeping your head in the sand will make the increasing problem go away, or you are a coward who will not speak up for human rights, or both. The rights and freedoms of your children and their children are at stake. When people say they don't care because it happened to someone else and not to them, they should seriously keep in mind that it could very easily be them next, or their children. Americans need to wake up, take their eyes off the television for a few minutes, and start to inform themselves about just how far into tyranny this once great nation is slipping, and then do something about it. Do something about it. Knowing is not good enough. What are you doing about it? What action are you taking? Who are you speaking to? And I'm telling you who you need to go and speak to. I'll just finish this, but by speaking out to everyone around them and taking action to show so-called public servants that their immoral and criminal activities will not stand in our supposedly free land. And then I put the First Amendment on the second page of this document. It's a PDF. You can download it with this podcast or on the news section of my website, in which you can see the video. I'll also post the video in the related video section with the podcast. But my point here is, not enough people are speaking up about the criminal injustice that is taking place in this country, especially at the federal level. You need to talk to police's family members and get them to try to understand that this country is on the verge of revolution, which is not going to be good for anyone living in it. It's not going to be good for anyone living in it. They need to back down and stop following immoral orders. They are acting as Nazis. Nazis. Yes, that's what it is. Nazis. It is just as bad as what the Nazis were doing at the very beginning of their takeover. This is exactly what they were starting to do. Shut down all political dissent. And I'll tell you what the flyer was in a moment. But what I want... Actually, let me tell you what the flyer is now, and then I'll get into a point I want to make about morality before we go into the presentation. And again, this will be a long podcast today. All right? It's going to be, this issue I want to touch on, and then I'm going to give an extended version of the New Age bullshit lecture that I gave at the Free Your Mind 2 conference to help clear up what the New Age religion really is all about. The flyer was simply this. It said, "End the Fed, the Federal Reserve Bank, keeping the poor poor since 1913. This is talking about the immoral monetary policy of the Federal Reserve System. And then it said, "Quick facts about the Fed." The first bullet point, since the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913, the dollar has lost 95% of its purchasing power. Second bullet point, money creation robs people of their savings by causing the hidden tax of inflation. Third bullet point, most of the personal income tax pays interest on the national debt directly to the Federal Reserve. Fourth bullet point, the Federal Reserve enables Congress to pay for unlimited warfare by giving them the power to borrow money without the people's consent. Fifth bullet point, the Federal Reserve concentrates power into the hands of special interests and removes it from the people where it belongs. And then underneath that, it says, get involved, truthfreedomprosperity.org and cfliberty.org, citizensforliberty.org, cfliberty.org. So those two websites, and that's it. That's all the flyer had on it. Now, this is what they're saying, and I've received emails from other people saying that they're trying to shut down their speech, like Christian preachers and things like that, who want to hand prayer tracts to people, which is their right to do so. I may not totally agree with modern forms of Christianity. I consider myself someone who follows the esoteric principles of Christianity, of original, early Christianity, or what I would call simply esoteric Christianity, the heart of the Christian tradition. But I don't believe in modern religion, which is a control system just like every other form of religion. You know, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, it's all a control system. There's good core principles in every one of those things if you ignore all of the astrotheological trappings that they're wrapped up in and ignore all the dogma that they're wrapped up in that's all about controlling people and controlling their minds and what they're willing to look into and helping them not to making them not understand natural law is what religion's all about, because it's not really thinking for yourself, coming to your own conclusions, and deeply and definitively recognizing the objective difference between right and wrong, morality, which is the core of every one of those traditions, but that's been lost. That's been ignored. Because you're getting all lost in all the trappings that are all nonsense and all the dogmatic crap that the religion is wrapped up in, and you can't see the forest for the trees. You know? You can't understand the simple core principles, like the golden rule. Don't do unto others that which you would not want done unto yourself. Don't abuse other people's rights. Don't treat other people in a way that you wouldn't want to be treated yourself. Now, we lose sight of that because it's all about, hey, don't eat this on Friday of Lent, or, make sure you sing this hymn in church. You know, see a priest to act as an intermediary between you and the Creator to go confess your sins to. Or somehow you're unclean, you're dirty. Yeah, all of those things are about what real Christianity is about. You know, forget the objective difference between right and wrong. Forget knowing that. Forget really understanding the golden rule and its application in your daily life. No. You know, go follow all the dogmatic crap. You know, it's all about belief, not about right action. I love that. You know, salvationism. You know, we just need to believe something and you'll be okay. Yeah, good luck with that. A bunch of clowns think that. Yeah, there's no role for right action in the world. Yeah, okay. Whoever thinks that is a joke, and you're no Christian. You're no Christian. You're an insult to what real Christianity is. An insult, if that's what anybody thinks. You're not listening to the words of the Christ at all, even a little bit, who was trying to explain to people that action is the way you save yourself. right action, because you know the difference between right and wrong, because you have conscience fully born inside of you, and that is the second birth. That is what being born again is. And, for all the people that want to say, oh, Christ didn't live as a man, I don't even care about any of that. Okay? I could write books on astrotheology like I tell people. That's not the point. Whether it was an actual being or not, the teachings are what is valid. And people get too lost in all that. That's just another layer of distraction to not get the message. To focus on it just as astrotheology. No, it wasn't just astrotheology. That's what they used to dissuade people away from the real message. That's what you have to understand about it. There's a core truth that lies at the heart of it that's all wrapped up in astrotheology. That's there deliberately to try to get people not to look at the core principles. And it's the same in every other religion. So, let me use this as a segue to talk about morality and just ask people this question. I want to know, do you think if you went back in time, theoretically, of course, to, let's say, 1938 or 1939 Nazi Germany, and you ask the average working class German citizen, are you a good person? Are you a moral human being? Do you have common sense? Do you have real values? Is conscience born in you? Do you have truly a conscience? Do you really know the difference between right and wrong? How many of those people do you think would have said, absolutely, yes, indeed, how dare you ask me that question? I'm even offended by the fact that you've asked that question to me. Of course I'm a good person. Of course I have conscience. Of course I have common sense. Of course I know the difference between right and wrong. And every one of them would have said, I wholesale support this government. The Nazi Party is good, it's wholesome, it's doing the right thing. They're good people. I support my government. I guarantee you, approaching 98% would have said that. If you had a couple of dissenters here and there, they probably would have been afraid to even speak their mind. But if you had 2% of the people in that time that would have said, I truly do know the difference between right and wrong, and this government is not right. Very, very few people would have said that. They all believed that they were part of something that was good and right. This is how brainwashed they were. And Americans are no different. They're no different. No different whatsoever. They think American citizens believe erroneously that they know the difference between right and wrong. And I can assure you they do not. They do not have that knowledge. That knowledge is not inside of them. It is not integrated within them. And conscience and common sense are not truly born in them. They don't even understand that conscience means common sense. That common sense is having a conscience. Is the knowledge between right and wrong. And you know what? It's beyond that. We're beyond Nazi Germany, ladies and gentlemen. We are in a worse position than Nazi Germany. Because most people not only will tell you that, oh yeah, I think I'm a good person. And if you try to say you really don't understand the difference between right and wrong, most of them will just tell you they don't care. That they're being honest, actually. They're saying, I don't care what rights are. I don't care what wrongs are. I have no interest in learning the difference between right and wrong. That's where most people in America are at. And that's the underlying causal reason. That's the causal factor of why we're going into a police state. You want to hear natural law in a nutshell without even going into the details? There's one simple law. As morality increases, meaning the knowledge of the objective difference between right and wrong, and then choosing the right action over the wrong action, Okay, so you could even word it like this: as the exercise of conscience increases, freedom increases. As morality and the exercise of conscience wanes or decreases, freedom decreases. That's it. You know, I guess I just made the people who are going to be attending the natural law seminar pretty mad, because if you know that, that's all you really need to know about how natural law functions. Of course, we're going to go much deeper in depth, and there'll be like really great information shared in the seminar. Don't let that dissuade you. But my point here is it's very simple. It's a simple law that operates in creation. You're incapable of breaking that law. Just as incapable you are of breaking the law of gravity. No different. Or magnetism. You are incapable of breaking that law. It's in effect for all time, in all places, everywhere in the universe. And this is what people need to understand. That this is all about morality and the difference between right and wrong. And what we're drawing to ourselves, the horror that we are drawing to ourselves as a result of not truly understanding morality and living it, believing that we're good when what we support is violence and slavery. That's what all people who believe in government are. They're people who think they're good, but they're not. They're erroneous. That's an erroneous perception. That's an erroneous perception. If you believe in authority, what you support is violence and slavery. Let me just repeat that again. If you believe that government is inherently legitimate, especially this one, you are a person, whether you understand it or not, regardless of your perception of it. Your perception of it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Perception is not reality. I'm not talking about anybody's perception. I'm talking about what is. I'm talking about the truth. I'm talking about that which is real. Okay? Your perception that you are a good person is inaccurate. It is absolutely not true. It is erroneous. Because for the very reason that you support government, which is based in violence, which is based in the usurpation of free will of other people, and turning them into someone who must obey, that is called slavery. That is the claim that other people belong to other people, that some people belong to other people. It is a claim of ownership. I don't care how much of a minarchist you are. You are wrong. You do not have conscience and common sense truly raised in you. You can think you do all you want, but you are wrong. You are wrong. Because what you are ultimately still supporting is violence and slavery. And this is what I and many other people who do understand the non-aggression principle, who do understand that the illegitimacy of all forms of so-called government, are trying to teach people. We are trying to simply teach people moral behavior. Explain, this is a right because it doesn't harm other people. This is a wrong because it does cause harm. That's it. And if you look at the simple example that was demonstrated here today about our unlawful, illegal arrest, we harmed no one. No one was harmed. There was not one person that could come up present and say, you know what Mark and Barb did today harmed me. And if you think that, you're an ass. That's all I can say. If you think we were doing something that we didn't have a right to do, you're an ass. And you need your head examined. There's something physically wrong with you. You have brain damage. You are broken. You are mentally sick. You're mentally ill, if that's what you think. And I want other people to hear this. Play this for them who think that. Or tell it to them just like that. You need help. You're sick. You're ill. You have mental, psychological, and spiritual damage to your being, to the core of your being. It doesn't matter what you are like physically. You could be in generally perfect health. You're not really in perfect physical health, because if you did a scan of the brain, you'd realize how totally screwed up the brain actually is. Okay, so when people say, oh, I'm in good health, and they don't understand the principles of freedom, they don't understand right from wrong, they're not really in good health. Because if you looked at the actual structure of the brain and how the brain is electrochemically firing, you'd realize something is horrifically broken inside the human brain. And that happens by chronic brain hemispherical imbalance in the brain. We're going to get to that in the presentation today. But my point here is, people think that they're good, and they're not good people. My family is a prime example of this. You ask my family members, are you good people? And they'll say, oh yeah, I'm a good person, I'm moral, I know the difference between right and wrong. And they're full of shit. They're full of shit. They're not good people. They're bad people. They are bad human beings. That's the definition of a bad person, is someone who doesn't really truly know the difference between right and wrong. That's what makes a person a bad person. That's what makes them apt to do the work of evil and to keep supporting the work of evil, because they're so unknowledgeable, they're so ignorant, they're uninformed. They're not paying attention to what is real and what is true. They have no obligation to what is true in their life. They don't care about what's true. All they give a shit about is themselves. Thinking that somehow that's going to lead to prosperity. When in fact that's the path directly into the cage that you're going to live in forever. Until people get their head out from up their ass and realize, I can't continue to only care about me. I have to care about what's true. I have to care about what's right. I have to care about what's really taking place in the world that is going against truth and goodness and morality and rights. And then get involved and share that and speak it to people. The reason this police state keeps coming on is because, again, there's not enough people speaking. The chorus of voices needs to be so loud and so omnipresent that it is completely unavoidable everywhere you walk. That's what the great work is, ladies and gentlemen. And people are loath to do it because they're worried about what my family member is going to say about me. What's this guy going to say at me? What's this guy at the bar going to say? What's the people I hang out and go to the ball game with going to say? What is any of that going to matter when you are going to be living in a prison? And in fact, you already are. Get out of that fear. By whatever means you have to do to take yourself up out of that level of fear, do it. Just start speaking. The fear will leave automatically, organically, once you start actually speaking. And I'm telling you who you have to reach. You have to reach the police. You have to reach them so that they begin to understand that they're not the good guys. You think you're the good guys. You've been led to believe you're the good guys, and you're not the good guys. Look through all human history. Why do you think they even call it a police state? It is called a police state because the police are the people who implement the totalitarianism. It isn't called a politician state. It isn't called a judge state. It isn't called a lawyer state. It isn't called a banker state. It's called a police state for a reason. They're the people who actually do it, who actually implement it. And to all the military who's listening, who may happen to be listening, or if you have people who are in the military, they need to understand they're going to need to step up and come and join the side of right instead of thinking that you're all about following orders. Well, all the people you say you have an allegiance to that are your brothers in the military, their rights are getting usurped. They're people that are having their rights put down just like you and your family. And you think you're doing something good by going and fighting a war 10,000 miles away? The war is here. It's right here in America. Because this country has been taken from the inside. It's been taken from the inside. And people who are order followers, and that's all they care about, I'll follow this order for a paycheck, you don't even understand that this country's been taken from the inside. You're not seeing the picture. And some people in the military are waking up and realize that they've been used and abused like the dogs that their owners call them and thrown away. Here, we gave you a set of dog tags because we consider you a dog. And you don't even understand the symbolism. People are wearing that as a badge of honor, thinking that it's a good thing. They have shirts. Maybe I'll post the shirts that are coming out with military people depicted as dogs on them. And they buy them like it's something to be proud of. You are being directly insulted to your face. Directly insulted to your face. And you say you fought for the freedom of this country? Bullshit. There is no freedom in this country. You fought for nothing. You fought for the banker and politician who wants to wage war on another country to get their resources. Let's be totally honest. That's what the military's fighting for. You want to fight for a just cause? Fight here. Fight here for natural human rights that are being done away with in this country. Open up a book for once in your life and start reading about police states through history and understand that's exactly what is already taking place here. People got to wake up fast. We're out of time. Forget time left. There's no time left. We're out of time. When you see things like this going on, I'm telling you right now, hauling off people to secret prisons is right around the corner. It's already really being done. That's what Guantanamo is, except the word got out about it. And for every Guantanamo, I guarantee you there's 10 other secret prisons already operating at least. The military have to get out of this notion in their head, and people have to help them see it. You're not the good guy either. You're waging imperialism for the mega super rich elite class in this country. You're not fighting for anything that's noble. If you were fighting for something that's noble, you wouldn't even be going into the military. You'd be getting involved in the fight for freedom, justice, and human rights right here in America so we can make this country a beacon of freedom for the rest of the world and set a shining example of what their people should do. And the founders told us over and over and over and over and over and over and over again that morality was the key. That once morality left the people, their freedom would shortly follow. And that's what we're seeing in America. This is why they want to hide the knowledge of natural law. They don't want people understanding natural law. This is the occulted wisdom that the dark occultists are trying to hide forever from people. Well, they can't. They try to hide it by telling people, oh, there's nothing to that. You shouldn't look into the occult. It's all bad. It's all evil. There's nothing to it. And by putting continuous frivolous nonsense before our eyes in the mainstream media, issues that have nothing to do with what's really going on, and just endless entertainment and just frivolous trivia. You keep feeding people garbage just to keep them from that knowledge. They don't want you to understand the objective difference between right and wrong. Once you do that, you're not going to easily lay down to their control. You're going to understand authority is an illusion. And that they have no rights to do what they're doing, and they're totally illegitimate. They're just a gang of criminal thugs that never had any legitimacy. And that's what they don't want people waking up to. Because anybody who understands natural law knows that. They don't think they know it, they do know it. And hence I call it the most occulted knowledge. So I know not that many people will hear this between now and the 8th, but if you do, sign up for the seminar, and I'm not just telling you to do that, because I want more people signing up. I want serious students. Let me make that real clear. I want people who have a dedication to this information and want to take it deeply into themselves and understand it at a deep level so that they can be a purveyor of that information. I'm trying to build other teachers. I don't want people who just understand it and say, hey, all right, I get it. Okay, thanks, I'm good. No, you're not good. Until you can understand it so deeply that you can teach it to someone else, you're not good. You haven't gone all the way. So I think that's all I'm going to say on this whole issue of free speech being destroyed in America. I think those who have eyes to see and ears to hear are going to fully get it from this recounting and the other ones that I've already done on the website. And by the way, I've done many interviews since this happened. Been very busy doing interviews. I was on Frater X's show, The Middle Chamber. All of these are in the news section as well. I was on the Bob Tuscan show. I was on Guy Next Door Speaks with Ivan from Phoenix. I was on Down the Rabbit Hole with Popeye. I've been on Syncretism with Santos Bonacci. David Whitehead did a great job guest hosting for Santos while he was on vacation. I was on Breaking All the Rules with Chief Kessler, a constitutional sheriff here in Pennsylvania who has started a constitutional militia in the state. He was also he was at a conference, so Bob Gardner of the Watchmen of America co-hosted on that show. All of these shows are on my news section, and most of them are also listed still in the latest news widget on the side on the left-hand column at whatonearthishappening.com. So definitely go and check them out. I recounted this story in many of them as well. And that's, like I said, that's why I'm almost tired of talking about this, but I felt that it definitely was necessary to put this down officially in the What on Earth is Happening podcast as well.